This video explains my views on Judge Yvonne Gonzalez-Rogers' decision in the Epic versus Apple lawsuit and on American high-tech companies generating employment in other countries. Hello friends, this is Unmasked Truth with Harmanjeet Saini, where I provide unique analysis of world events based on the unmasked truth that after surrender, Germany continued World War II clandestinely and became a killing machine. I also provide true news that you will find nowhere else. On September 3rd, 2021, Judge Yvonne Gonzalez Rogers delivered her decision on the Epic versus Apple lawsuit. The key points in her decision are: number one, Epic failed to prove that Apple is a monopoly. Number two, Apple cannot prohibit developers from directing customers to alternative payment methods outside the App Store. The judge's decision means that Apple has to allow developers to offer options to users to pay in other ways than just Apple Pay. That means developers can include external links in their apps, buttons, or other calls to action that direct customers to alternative methods of payment outside of Apple's proprietary payment system. Such options would keep Apple from its 30% revenue cut on in app purchases. Previously, Apple did not allow developers to direct users to external payment methods. Thirdly, however, the judge noted in her ruling that Apple is still entitled to license its intellectual property for a fee of some sort and requiring developers to use Apple's payment system accomplish this goal in the easiest and most direct manner. The ruling says that Epic's unbundling alternative would severely undermine the system. Indeed, to the extent Epic Games suggests that Apple received nothing from in app purchases made on its platform, such a remedy is inconsistent with prevailing intellectual property law. Epic's main goal in the lawsuit was to prevent Apple from collecting its 30% commission on all purchases. Judge Rogers did not find the commission illegal. She, in fact, commented on how it might work out in actual practice. If developers stopped using the IAP system, that is, in app purchases system, entirely, Apple could still charge a commission on developers. It would simply be more difficult for Apple to collect that commission, the judge writes. The ruling provides a scenario in a footnote. In such a hypothetical world, developers would potentially avoid the commission while benefiting from Apple's innovation and intellectual property free of charge. The court presumes that in such circumstances, that Apple may rely on imposing and utilizing a contractual right to audit developers' annual accounting to ensure compliance with its commissions, among other methods. Of course, any alternatives to IAP, including the foregoing, would seemingly impose both increased monetary and time cost to both Apple and the developers. So the judge seems to have acknowledged that overall, using Apple's payment system is the most efficient way for Apple to collect its commission. It also makes for the best customer experience, as he does not have to go to another website to make payments for purchases. It is also the least costly system to administer for both developers and Apple, as auditing of commissions would impose an excessive burden with the potential for disputes. Therefore, it simply makes no business sense for developers to use an outside payment system for all sales on the App Store unless they can find a way to avoid paying Apple its 30% commission or a portion of it. Again, Epic's primary motive was to avoid Apple's 30% commission. In my July 29, 2020 video titled "Is Apple a Monopoly? Epic versus Apple Lawsuit: How USA Should Deal with Big Tech," I provided the following information about app revenues of Google's Android and Apple's iOS smartphone operating systems from reports in the media. Android and iOS app revenue reached $111 billion in 2020, a 24% increase year on year. iOS was responsible for 65% of total app revenue in 2020. Games accounted for 71.6% of total app revenue in 2020, or approximately $79.5 billion. Dollars. iOS generated $47.6 billion in revenue in 2020, while Google Play made 31.9 billion. Mobile apps are expected to generate a staggering 935 billion by 2023 via paid downloads and in-app advertising. This figure was obtained from the German company Statista. Tencent and Epic want Apple and Google to receive absolutely no share of that revenue while expecting it to continue spending to maintain their respective mobile platforms securely. Tell Tencent and Epic to take a hike, is what I said. Let's not be naive about what the lawsuit was mainly about and what is at stake. Newzoo.com estimates total global gaming revenues at $175.8 billion for 2021, with mobile gaming accounting for $90.7 billion for a 51.6% market share. MorderIntelligence.com estimates that global gaming revenue will reach $314.40 billion by 2026. Assuming mobile gaming retains its close to 51.6% share of the global gaming market revenues, the mobile gaming revenues will reach $162.23 billion to be divided between Apple and Google. So let's work the figures another way, as there is some inconsistency between the different data sources. Newzoo estimates that the gaming market will experience a 7.2% CAGR, which is compound annual growth rate, whereas Mordor Intelligence estimates the CAGR to be 9.64%. Let's assume a compromise CAGR of 8.4% and assume the mobile gaming revenues for Apple and Google to grow at that CAGR, that is compound annual growth rate. Then Apple and Google's total gaming revenues will grow from $79.5 billion in 2020 to $129 billion in 2026. Tencent and Epic and other game developers want Apple and Google to receive zero of that revenue so that they can collect it all or pass on some of it as discounts to their customers. This is an attempt to confiscate more American wealth and transfer it to enemies like China using the American legal system. As it is, foreign companies such as Tencent are raking in American dollars because German masqueraders and their allies in America buy the products and services of foreign firms to deliberately transfer American wealth to them. The purpose of the lawsuit was to force American companies legally to part with more of their wealth and give it to Chinese and other countries' companies. Epic's lawsuit was actually targeting all app revenues and not only mobile gaming revenues, arguing that iOS and Android are platforms and should receive no revenue, as PC operating systems receive no revenues from all that is downloaded on them. Total app revenues have been growing at a much faster rate than gaming revenue, at a rate above 20%. Using a conservative CAGR of 20% on the $111 billion total app revenue for iOS and Android, by 2026 the total app revenue will reach at least $331 billion. In its arguments in the lawsuit, Epic wanted to deny any part of that revenue to Apple and Google, while it wanted them to continue investing in their platforms and make them secure. I agree with the judge's decision to dismiss Epic's arguments that since iOS and Android are mere platforms, they should receive no revenues. However, the judge has made it difficult for Apple and Google to collect their commissions. The courses of actions available to Apple are: number one, appeal the judge's decision to force Apple to allow developers to offer payment options outside its in app purchase system. Apple says it will pursue that appeal option. Secondly, It appears that Judge Rogers has thought through the options available for Apple and has recommended a contractual alternative which will impose costs on Apple as well as developers. Clearly, as the judge has noted, it's a very inefficient, poor alternative. After giving it some thought myself, I could not come up with an alternative that would impose less burden on Apple and developers without violating the California law. Now, I'm not a lawyer and have not read the California law and just accept the judge's decision that the existing arrangements violates the law. The third option for Apple is to lobby the California legislature to amend the California unfair competition law that Apple's current practice of forcing developers to receive payments only through its IAP system, it violates the law. The amendment could include an exception clause specifying that if adherence to the law imposes costs, inefficiencies, or other burdens on all parties concerned, and the transaction costs for the customers are similar between Apple's IAP system or other payment systems, then the seemingly anti competitive practice may be permitted. That means it does not violate the law. Number four, Apple and Google may be able to come up with another software come contractual solution that enables them to track the amount paid to the developers, whether through App Store's IAP system and Google's IAP system or another payment system without violating other laws such as privacy laws. I think the most equitable solution would be for California legislators to amend the law, uh, adding a clause with when its implementation deprives a party of revenues and results in a system that is very inefficient and imposes much more costs all around and will likely lead to more disputes. Now my clarification on my views on big tech companies generating employment in other countries. In my July 29, 2021 video, I stated what they, that is American big tech companies such as Apple, Google, Amazon, and Facebook, practice in the United States, they must practice in all countries to generate wealth around the world by employing local people as much as possible and investing in small firms. This will expand the global economic pie, generate wealth, and let all nations share in the prosperity. This statement may have been misunderstood to mean that I am implying that American big tech firms like Apple, Google, Amazon, Facebook should employ IT experts from other countries to generate employment there. For example, these firms do a lot of business in India and China. I was not implying that they should generate employment in these countries by employing as many computer hardware and software engineers in these countries as they could. I meant generating employment opportunities in other these countries for support staff, such as in call centers or local tech support, by setting up offices in these countries and employing locals. In addition, companies like Amazon should help entrepreneurs in other countries and employ staff locally to support them for retail operations. We should not be employing numerous highly qualified computer engineers as they could leave our companies and use that experience to set up competing companies in those countries such as India and China. I'm also very apprehensive about the very high number of persons of foreign origin working in these American companies in America because they could potentially set up competing enterprises with the knowledge and experience they've gained in these companies. There is also a high likelihood that foreign origin CEOs of American companies may be discriminating against Americans in employment and pack them with foreign origin IT employees at the expense of Americans in these jobs. We must keep the highest number of high paying tech jobs with Americans so that they can stay at the cutting edge of technology and not allow viable foreign competitors to develop. Our decent standard of living depends on it. We must maintain our competitive advantage by employing Americans of non foreign descent. That is very critical because those of foreign descent can leave the companies, gain their experience, and set up competing companies. Thank you very much for watching this video. Please continue to watch my videos and read my articles on important world events, World War III watch, politics, international business, advice on health and medical problems, and much more for in-depth and insightful analysis. Please also subscribe to my YouTube and Facebook channels, Unmasked Truth with Harmanjeet Saini, to view and get information on the latest videos. Some people do not have the time to go through the full length of the videos. They find it more convenient to read the text of the video. Unfortunately, YouTube does not provide me the facility to make the text of my videos available on YouTube. But fortunately, Facebook does provide that facility. So I make the text of my videos available on my Facebook channel, which you can then easily copy.